Welcome to the virtual office hours. My name is John Fia. As most of you know by this point, I teach American history here, chair the history department at Messiah College. This is our spring 2015 series known, and we're calling it at least, a new kind of history department. Megan Piet, as usual, behind the camera, our trusty producer. And we have a special guest with us today, Christina Hanson, who is the director of, and I'm going to get this wrong, Christy, the
Career and Professional Development Center.
Career and Professional Development Center. They recently changed their name. It used to just be the Career Center. But Christy is the director of the Career Center, and we are going to talk about the relationship that has been forged over the last several years between the History Department and the Career Center. As you know from our previous interviews in the office hours this semester, we have been talking about some of the new and innovative things that we have been doing in the History Department that sort of maybe are distinctives for the Messiah History Department. So we thought we had to talk to Christy because so much of what we've been emphasizing in the History Department in the last several years has been related to careers. So welcome, Christy, to the virtual office hours.
Happy to be here.
And my wife, Joy, actually works in the Career Center, I should add, and Christy is her boss. So I'll try to say nothing today that'll get my wife fired. But anyways, welcome. So tell us, why should a history major, right? This whole big question, what can you do with a history major, right? Why should a history major come to the Career Center as opposed to someone that's in a more professional major?
Yeah. Well, I think history is like some of our majors that, actually a lot of our majors that don't necessarily have a prescribed career plan. And so one of our roles here at Messiah in the Career and Professional Development Center is to work with students from a very early point on to assess what their strengths are, what their interests are, and to really help them formulate some sort of plan for gaining experiences that's going to set them up to not only be more confident in what they want to do, but also to gain the experiences that are going to be necessary to make them marketable for using their history degree in a variety of different areas.
Yeah, and that's what we wanted to really do. We wanted to get our students to think outside the box, right? History majors, it's not just teaching or graduate school, right? But they have a certain set of skills. So tell us a little bit about how this relationship developed. I could give you my side, but what was your vision for getting history or even all the other humanities disciplines that don't normally think about careers connected with your office?
Well, I'm a big believer in the fact that one size does not fit all when it comes to career planning.
Right.
And so one thing that we wanted to do in an effort to help students think more specifically about how their major translates into career opportunities is to take our model, which is a 4-step model from assessing themselves, exploring their options, gaining experience, and then transitioning out, is really customizing that for students who are pursuing history as a major. And so we worked with the history department to identify what would some of those particular experiences, resources, people connections be that students need to know about early on so that they can maximize their time here.
Yeah, and I think we were one of the pilot groups,
yes,
right?
Yes.
So there you go, all you history department chairs out there.
Yes.
Go contact your Career Center person. I mean, we led the way on this, at least in terms of the humanities. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I will say that for sure.
So you mentioned this 4-phase plan, right? Can you give us a brief synopsis of what that looks like? Maybe we could even we've developed a career brochure as well. We could probably get an image of that up at some point. But what is that 4-step process? I think you mentioned the main points there a second ago, but.
So students come into college on a wide spectrum of decidedness, from having a very good handle on what their strengths and their interests, their values are, to having some ideas but not being quite sure. Assessment really spend some good time evaluating what those are. For some students, it's helpful to have a tool that they can answer some questions about themselves, talk with a career coach about what some of those interests are and categorize them in certain areas to make it a little bit more understandable. And then from there, moving into more of the exploration phase.
So the first stage, assessment, is that what we're calling it?
Yeah, we're calling that assess. So it's basically a self-assessment process, right? And moving into exploration, which
Okay.
is where, okay, I have a good handle on what my strengths, what my interests are, but I'm not quite sure how they translate into careers. And what's
Right.
tricky about that is there's so many different career options, and sometimes it's possible and even preferable to choose a major without having all that figured
Right,
out. It's
right.
very, very normal, and
Yeah,
sometimes that
yeah.
can be a challenge for students. And so we really spend in the exploration phase time connecting them with resources on what are types of career paths associated with history.
Yeah.
What are types of career paths that are not traditionally
Right.
associated with history, but we can see in our data from what our
Right.
alums are doing are very, very possible.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, finding that information so that they can plan effectively to
Right,
move
right.
into the experience
Yeah.
phase.
Now, somewhere along the way, we're using the interviews we did, the Why Study History website, or link to those. I think it's on the blog. We have that in the brochure where we link to the Why Study History interviews. We did 50 interviews or more now, I think, with history majors who went into fields other than history specific or history related fields, and then asked what if you could do it again, knowing what you know now in your different field in business or so forth, what would you major in history again? And all of them said yes, because
Yeah.
of these various skills. So again, what I like about this is it embeds kind of, like you mentioned, it embeds the history stuff. We have stuff on there from the AHA and all kinds of stuff with your model, and I think it makes for a nice mesh. So there's 2 more categories.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Right, so then planning for experiences, which
Mhm.
could be in the form of internships, which is something our office really, really advocates for. We see that continuously as one of the top types of experiences that employers are looking for. And then other types of things could be volunteering in the
Yeah.
community, those types of things. So, what we see our role is not only helping students to connect to these experiences, but also help translating them and
Yeah.
learn to articulate the meaning and the value of those experiences in light of whatever their goals might be. So rather than go from the vantage point of, well, that doesn't relate to my history major, let's talk a little bit about what skills, what competencies are you developing that you're going to be able to take with you, that are going to be marketable to employers, because employers think much more broadly than majors in most cases. And so we really want to help students realize that.
Yeah, and this is what we actually incorporated into our Intro to History course, which you'll hear a little bit about in a future episode from Jonathan Wuthmiller, one of the students in there who particularly grasped this concept. Yeah,
That's
good.
great.
Yeah.
So then the final phase is transition. So it's really about, okay, you have all this great stuff. You have the experience, you have the things that you've done in the classroom. Now let's take those and let's synthesize those, whether that be in the form of a resume, a cover letter, a graduate school application. How do I talk about these things in an interview in a way that's going to
Yeah.
get the attention
Yeah.
of the employer? And then real practical types of experiences where we set up opportunities for our students to connect with employers, with
Yeah.
graduate programs, with alumni who are doing great things to help facilitate those connections.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an awesome plan, and Christy did most of the heavy lifting. I just kind of plugged in. Oh, here's a cool thing for history we could
Right.
put in.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but it I think the career planning brochure that we put together, which has all of this information in it, we give it to prospective students, we give it to first year students, and we hit them right away. We say, look, you need to start thinking about not only what you can do with a major, but those skills. And here is a plan that you need to seriously think about with your advisor to get you where you want to go with the major. So Christy has been an incredible help to us as we're trying to sort of redesign the department, think in different ways that are kind of outside the box and a little different than the way sort of the traditional history department in the last 50 years has thought about the significance and role of a history major. So thanks for coming on
Absolutely.
the office hours. I just realized that Christy did not get to experience the Founding Fathers Pez dispensers because we forgot them, but at least I mentioned them, so we can keep that tradition up.
That's
so
great.
thanks for watching. See you next time on the
Thanks.
virtual office hours.